Undoubtedly, in the toughest time of our lives, the coronavirus is devastating so many.
But the pandemic has obscured another epidemic, and it's getting worse in our area, taking more lives by the minute. News 4's Alexis Zotos investigates the raging addiction to opioids and how kids are finding them easily through their phones.
Here is Brian and his sister Jamie making mud pies.
A young life.
This is Brian and Jamie at their confirmation.
Cut short.
Had his whole life ahead of him.
All thanks to a drug that's finding its way into every neighborhood.
Brian had OD'd here at our rental.
Robin Hotep Ryan isn't alone.
I came home from work one day and found his body here in our house.
It's a club no mother wants to join.
Michael was he was 22 years old when he passed away from an accidental heroin overdose. It was a mix of heroin and Xanax.
2020 saw hundreds of thousands of lives lost to the coronavirus pandemic, but raging on was the opioid epidemic, claiming more lives than ever before. Overdose deaths rose 38% compared to 2019, according to the CDC.
In 2020, the ambulance district responded to 494 opiate overdoses, which was about a 16.5% increase over 2019.
In St. Charles County, their paramedics respond to an overdose at least once a day. The biggest challenge? Fentanyl.
Fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin.
Todd Zimmerman is the brand new head of the Drug Enforcement Agency in St. Louis. His top priority is tackling the fentanyl pouring onto the streets and into the cell phones of our young people.
What we're seeing is young folks, teenagers, young adults, ordering fentanyl laced, and they don't know it's fentanyl laced, right? So they're ordering pills off the internet.
It often starts at home with pills taken from grandparents' or parents' medicine cabinets.
And when it runs out and there's no more left in the house, then they turn to the street, or they turn to the internet, or they turn to an app such as Snapchat.
So where is it coming from?
What we see these Mexican organizations pressing these pills to look exactly like Xanax, the shape, the color.
But they're adding the dangerous synthetic opioid, fentanyl.
If they put more than 2 milligrams of fentanyl in one of these pills, it becomes deadly. And 2 milligrams is equivalent to 2 grains of salt. These pills then get smuggled across the border and then get distributed throughout the United States.
And then it gets into the hands of people like Brian and thousands of others. The pandemic has halted many of the resources, walks, Narcan distribution, and in-person meetings.
The pandemic has pretty much, shut all that stuff down.
Law enforcement is cracking down. St. Louis City and County Police have seized thousands of grams of fentanyl off the streets already this year, and numerous dealers are facing federal charges.
This is something we cannot arrest our way out of.
He says it comes down to parents talking to their kids.
You're talking a situation which is a life and death situation. Now, one pill immediately after ingesting it causes death.
Which is why these mothers hope sharing their son's stories will save another young life.
I'm not ashamed of who he was. He was fighting a battle that a lot of people don't win.
Alexis Zotos, News 4.
Experts we spoke to say it is never too early to talk to your kids. We do have resources for you in this story on the KMOV News app.